Welcome back, MMAOddsBreaker. Today we're talking to Paul Bradley, getting ready to fight Josh Neer, coming up here in Bellator. What is it? October 17th. Was it 129?
Yeah. Might be 127 or no? Is it 129?
I mean, who knows, man? It's like
There's
remember,
so many.
Before Coker, it was every week it was a fight, and then nothing for a couple months, and then every week a fight. And so now with where it's slowed down a little bit, I'm not sure the numbers are anymore. I'm trying to keep track. First, I got to ask: do you notice a difference since Coker's come on board and running the ship?
Definitely. I think with Scott, he's just done it for so much longer. There was a lot of things that Bellator kind of did backwards. One being, if you look at the advertising, like for one, my first fight in Bellator, I think my fight was announced like 2 weeks prior to the event. Like, how do I even promote that or sell tickets for an organization that I can't even tell who I'm fighting? So just small things like that. And I do like the fact that Scott is decided to cut down on the shows because Scott said it himself, man, these guys are on the road like, man, every other weekend. You don't really have a family. So I think it's good that they're going to do the bigger shows instead of just doing them every week. I think that's actually going to pull a lot more views than someone having to just like the UFC. It's kind of watered down right now, let's be honest. So
there's so much going on. There's so many fights happening. It's impossible. I've talked to some guy. I've had my IT guy. After our interview, we send it to my editor. He edits it, puts it together, makes sure the background looks right, and then puts it up. And he's like, hey, when is this fight going? When is this fight going? I'm like, I have to go back and look at my notes. I have no idea. Like, it used to be on the top of my head. You asked me, Paul Bradley. Okay, October 17th, Bellator 129. The fight's in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Like, I know all the stats. And now it's like, dude, like, I couldn't tell you. And the cards, not only are the Bellator World Series of Fighting UFC cards mixing in together, but then you've got multiple cards of the UFC within weeks of each other. They're mixing together.
Yeah.
As a fight fan, you said it already. The UFC is watered down. You're in train camp right now, so you're not watching as much TV as you would be. But do you feel like when you're not in train camp and you're watching fights, because I know you're a fight fan, do you feel like it's like, I'll go to the movies tonight and just read about the results tomorrow as opposed to sitting at home and watching the fights?
Yeah, I mean, I try to make myself watch the Bellator events right now, just because I being my first main event, I want to make sure I know what it's like, what the atmosphere is going to be like when I walk out and all that good stuff. But yeah, man, we do this full time, and it's just like anything else. Like, if you get done with a hard, I know you wrestled in college. We get done with a hard wrestling practice. I'm sure your last thing you're going to want to do is watch college wrestling on TV. Let's be honest, That's just what we do. And I'm sure it's the same that goes for baseball, football, all those different sports. I was lucky enough to train with a guy like Sean Shirk early in my career. And, man, he was a great example. He's like, man, I don't even know who is who. He's like, I just literally show up for camp, do my fights, and that's it. He's like, anything more than that is taxing on my mind. So
yeah, every fight is a little bit different. Some guys, they can't get enough. All they want to do is watch fights and train all day. And other guys, kind of like you and me, when I get home, man, it's Power Ranger, because I got kids, so it's Power Ranger time. And Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. Like, I have no time to watch fights, man. I'm lucky if I can get a couple, person of interest or NCIS. If when I have time. So let's go back, and I hate doing this to fighters because I hate when interviews used to do it to me, but it's also interesting because I kind of want to see where your head's at. Let's talk about Nathan Coy. What happened in that decision that now you could, if the fight was to happen again, it's one of those, hindsight's 2020. The fight would have happened now that you could pull a victory out of it. What happened in that fight that you could change? That right now, this is what I need to do, and I would have, if I had done this, I would have won.
The big thing with Nathan Coy was I never had experienced it before, and I'm sure with all your fights, you've probably had one or two fights in your life where you just felt like you weren't in the fight. Does that make sense? Like in a bubble, looking in. Like
every single fight after the second Hughes fight. Every single fight after the second Hughes fight.
Exactly.
My soul was gone. I was like, I don't even know why I'm here.
Yeah. Well, that fight, it was weird because I would do something good, and then I would go back into this bubble, and I'd be like almost watching myself fighting Nathan and just going through the motions. And And a lot of that, I think, had to do with leading up to the fight, and I had a bunch of stuff going on, a bunch of stuff that was inevitable, but that, you can say it's excuses or whatnot, but we all know.
Was it personal life stuff that was going on, or was it training stuff that was going on?
It was training. It was all adding up. For instance, like one of the smaller things was the night before my fight, one of my cornermen actually lost all my sponsor gear on the streets of Chicago. So like somehow it fell out of his trunk, and dude, like for a whole 2 hours, I was freaking out, because like I'm thinking I'm gonna have to pay these sponsors back. Just that's one small instance of what happened in my camp, and that was the night before the fight. So,
what the hell? Where were you training for that fight, for the Nathan Corey fight? Where did you train?
I was training at Alliance, but I actually had a guy that has I worked for him when I was a personal trainer in Minnesota, and he happens to live in Chicago, and he went to a couple of my fights, and he was the guy that would help me out like with that sponsor stuff and carry my gear, because when you just made weight, you're kind of out of it. You're not really, you don't want to deal with any of that. Well, somehow this guy loses it all, and I'm just like, man, really, this is how it's going to be. So just stuff like that. And then technically wise, like I just let Nathan Coy get off first. That's what it came down to. And the first fight with him, I actually, I used a lot of my wrestling to get him thinking about, oh man, this guy, he can possibly take me down. And in this last fight, I stood, I threw, and I didn't try one takedown. I think a lot of that played into it, and that the game plan was just not right. I did not have the right game plan. I didn't use any of my wrestling, although he's a good wrestler himself, but I didn't even have to make him think about my takedowns.
Who came up with your game plan for the Coy fight?
It was a mixture of things. My coaches did. They wanted me to wrestle.
Answer this. Is the game plan that you use, not using takedowns, not doing that, was that the game plan the coaches put together? Or was that the game plan that you put in when you walked in the case, so this is how I'm going to fight tonight?
I thought when I got hit right away, I just completely didn't even think about wrestling, I'll be honest. Okay. And this is also true, and I'm definitely not putting the blame on Bellator, but the other thing that was in my head going into this fight was, I had beaten Amasu before in a non-tournament fight, who was a tournament champion, but I'd used my wrestling. Well, I had come to find out later on that I possibly wasn't going to me and Coy weren't even supposed to be in the tournament, as you knew. Right. Yep. But the reason being was because I was a wrestler, I was told, basically. I wasn't exciting. So when I got that, when they told me that put something right in my head that, okay, it is what it is, and I'm going to go out there and I'm just going to throw bombs. So I completely abandoned my wrestling for one of those reasons, obviously. Being told when you're not exciting and you need to, make it exciting. I mean, I just figured, okay, well, I'll make it exciting. So that was kind of, I'll be honest, I was probably stuck in my head somewhere. So.
And that is one of the things I hate about the new breed of MMA fan. How they talk about the wrestler, the jiu-jitsu guy is really boring because all they do is hold you down and you don't do any action. But if you look back at Severn and Ken and Frank Shamrock,
oh yeah,
in the very beginning they were wrestlers. Then you move into Coleman, Couture, Henderson. You start looking at these other guys. Wrestling is an exciting style if you're aggressive with it, but you can be just as boring being a jiu-jitsu guy that jumps guard and holds on to the guy all the time and doesn't do anything. You can be just as boring as a striker if you're just running away the entire time and nothing happens. The only reason why Lyoto Machida becomes very exciting is because at any moment between the very first second of the first round, the very last second of the last round is a shot of him throwing that left hand and knocking you out. Right. But the rest of the time you're really looking at it, he's just running away. So it's like everyone's got this different opinion. Don't ever let anybody tell you that wrestling is boring and that you shouldn't deserve fights because you're a wrestler. You just have to be exciting no matter what your style is, what your core is. My personal opinion, you've got to wrestle. You have to wrestle. If you want to beat Josh Neer, you're going to have to wrestle. That's just what has to happen. There's no other way around it. Is that the game? I'm sure I'm not breaking any news. No one's going to, this interview won't go up until a day or two before the fight actually happens. Right. Don't panic. He's going to see it now. But my guess is, you're gonna smack him. You're gonna try and take him down. If you take him down, you're gonna beat him up on top. you can't take him down, you got to hit him some more. I mean, that's the minute look at the game plan. Am I correct?
Yeah, you hit it the nail right on the head. It is what it is. Coach Del Ferro, and then my grappling coach Neil Collinson, who I'm sure you know very well.
He's my black belt coach.
Exactly.
I know well enough that he beat the crap out of me for 5 years.
Oh, it's every day, man. Every day. It's like, God, I know he's bigger than me, but man, sometimes he just makes me feel helpless.
Right?
So,
he's obviously slides in that. He does that little knee flip where he's got his knee on your bicep and flips his arm around. Your arm slides back, and he puts a triangle on. You're like, I know it's coming, but I just can't do anything about it.
The dexterity for that guy when he pulls that like rubber guard today on me, I was like, how are you able to do this, man? Like, you shouldn't be able to pull your knee and pull your leg in front of my face. There's no way, but
especially at 6'7" and 265 and shredded. Like, how is he getting his ankle across?
Exactly. But yeah, back to what we're talking about. That's the goal. We get him down, we're gonna punish him, and if we let him even get up, we're gonna make him work, and that's the game plan. Beat him up, use my striking to my takedowns like the Amasu fight. That's the way it's got to be done. We just talked about it. I'm a wrestler. That's what I'm best at, and I have to make sure these guys respect the takedowns. When they respect the takedowns, we all know that opens up the striking. But if I don't even showcase any of the takedowns, that's when things get a little bit hairy, Yeah. So,
well, from a betting standpoint or from an odds making standpoint, if you look at you're 21-6, 7 KOs, 7 submissions, 7 decisions. So there's no way you can go in and go, hey, I'm going to take a prop bet on Paul and I'm going to bet this, because there's no way to really know. Like when people say I can finish him any way I want, you're one of the few guys that has the record to prove it. Like, look, I can finish a guy any way I want to because look at my record. I can go decision, I can knock you unconscious, I can TKO you, and I absolutely can submit you. You look at Neer at 36-13, he's obviously got more KOs, hence the dentist. He's cracked some guys' teeth.
Yep.
18 KOs, 14 submissions, but 4 decisions as his win. But when he loses, the majority of the way that he loses is by decision. He doesn't do very well when it goes the distance. If he's going to lose, he's only been knocked out twice, been submitted 5 times.
Right.
He gets decision 6 times. Was there any talk of that going into the game planning? Like, look, this guy can hit hard. He's got wrestling too. He knows how to strike, but he doesn't do well at the tail end of the fight. Has there been a talk about that happening?
Yeah, one of the few fights one of the fights I've really been studying is when Gleason T-Bow fought him in the UFC. Fought him perfectly. Used his striking to his takedowns, grinded him out. Another great fight that we've analyzed that's been super good for us was the Mike Pyle fight. Pyle went out, took him down right away, which no one expected. Started ground and pounding him, got up, Neer came hard, and he clipped him with the right hand. So he got him coming forward. He got him out of position. Those are two of the biggest fights we have been definitely watching. But like I said, like, Neer's a tough guy, but the way he's fought for this many years, man, like, that durability starts to go down. Let's be honest. You can't take shot for shot anymore. I mean, you look at the Chris Lieben, you look at, Chuck Liddell. It's just a matter of fact
anybody.
If you take the beatings, they're going to catch up. So
Neer started fighting. His amateur career started in June of 2002.
Yeah,
and since 2002, he's compiled a 36-13-1 record professionally. Then added another 10 or so. Hold on, let me give you a count. 11 or so amateur fights on top of that, starting in 2002, and he got all those fights, all those amateur fights he got starting in June of 2002 through November of 2003, so a year and some change. He got all those amateur fights and immediately jumped in going pro, and he has had some wars. Like, he has had some legit beat up, getting your head banged around, getting your knees kicked out from underneath you kind of wars. Yeah. And he's only 31. He's not in that prime of guys like, oh, you're 38, 39. Start thinking about it. He has taken a lot of road. He's been on the road a long time. Is that factoring also to your technical, how you're punching him? Because, a guy that knows that might have a weak chin or might, for me at least, being a lefty, if I hit him in the head, I'm going to bring my fist down because I want to kind of rattle his brain this way, whereas opposed to a guy that I know has got a strong chin, I'm always going to come straight across and I have to follow up with something else. Like, have you changed your technical boxing skill knowing that he's had some damage as well?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, with Josh, he fights more the Diaz style. He likes to keep the hands out, come forward. That works perfect for my overhand right and my left hooks. So we definitely been working that and then coming right up the middle with our uppercuts. So all of our punches are going to lead to takedowns, but you know, if I connect on one or two of them going for that takedown, it is what it is. You know, like I said, you know, in the Pyle fight, Pyle barely hit him, but he clipped him just right on the chin. So that's something we've noticed, and you know, like I said, he's been through so many wars, man. The body can only take so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Paul Bradley getting ready to fight Josh Neer, Bellator MMA. We think it's 129, but it could be 127. Hell, it could be 167. We have no idea. But it is on October 17th, and it is in Council Bluffs, Iowa, which is a great place to be at. It's a great town, a great fight town. You're going to have a lot of fun up there. Paul, thanks for coming on here. I appreciate it. I know it's late. I'm going to let you go. One last thing. You said in the beginning of the interview that before Coker, they give you a 2-week notice, how you're going to promote, how you're going to let people know who you're fighting. You've had more time. Have you seen the money come up in your sponsorship dollars just from the individual sponsors? And have you seen more sponsors jump on board now with you at Bellator?
It hasn't really taken off yet, I'll be honest. The sponsors I have actually gotten up myself. You know, I'm not going to name any sponsors right now, but man, I've kind of got pretty lowballed on a couple of them for the main event. So I went out, I branched out, I went with companies that I have a personal relationship with, and if I can tell any fighter too, and I'm sure you will agree, is companies, they don't want to be solicited. They don't want to have a manager send a generic email that says, "Hey, you know, Paul Bradley, Michael Chandler, and you know, so and so are fighting on this card. Would you like to sponsor them?" That's unpersonal.
Yeah.
Companies like to know what they're getting for their money. So I've made it a point, man, since I think I started fighting basically a year after, I made it a point to personally reach out to these companies and you know, talk with them and let them know, "Hey man, I'll promote you on social media. I really appreciate this. Is actually helping me with so and so." And companies appreciate that, man. They really like to know that they're getting money back on their dollar and all that. And then you know, for the big sponsors, I'll even, you know, send them like a piece of gear or something, and sponsors really appreciate that.
And the other thing I found out too is that they want to know where their money's going. Like, what is your money actually going to? It's not going into some coffer to buy a new deck for your. Yeah. It's not going to go buy your girlfriend or your wife a new Ferrari. You go, look, this money that you're actually giving me is going to this specific thing. It's going to pay my rent for the next 2 months during my training camp. It's going to
pay my coaches,
it's going to pay my training partners, like whatever it is. Like, sponsors want to know what. Yeah, we're giving you money. We want to get more money. If we're giving you $100, we want $1,000 worth of advertising back. But we also want to know, where's that $1,000 going, dude? That's my supplement line. That's my medicals. It's paying for my medicals. You know, it's like whatever it is, they want to know. So that's just advice for the other fighters out there. But Paul, you've actually figured it out on your own. You don't need to be. I'm preaching to the choir with you. That's for everybody else at home that doesn't know how it works out. So, Paul, thanks, man. I appreciate you coming out here. It's been great talking with you, and we're definitely talking again after this fight's over.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.
All right. See ya.